Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk, where we give it to you straight with no chaser. I am your host, Christopher Platt, your people's champ, as you can see. Haven't brought the strap out in a while, so I figured I had to floss on y'all for a little bit. You talking about you got gold, you got platinum. I got the belt, baby. Come holler at me. Just bring it. As always, we are broadcasting live this evening from the Platt Cave. How's everybody doing out there? Hope everybody's having a fine Wednesday evening wherever you may be. Hope you're beating the heat this long, hot summer. So, folks, today's show, is going to be powerful. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm extremely excited. Today's show is going to be very powerful. My prayer is that this show is also transformative for not only you, but I. So I'm very excited to get to this information. This is very powerful. And I pray that it's going to be transformative not only in your life, but in mine. Right? So let's light the miles and let's get this shindig on the road. Let's go down a good foot and do the bad thing, right? Again, I have to remind some of you schmucks that is a black and mild cigar. I'm not going to be on the internet smoking marijuana. Just not really going to work out like that. So how's everybody doing out there? Let me send this message and we'll go ahead and get started. I got a couple of things I wanted to discuss or just touch on before I got to the actual topic this evening. So somebody shoot me a line in the chat room. Let me know that that's operating, because you know sometimes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you hear the faintness of music in the background, you are moving and grooving to the sounds of Jay Diller's solo album by the name of Donuts. It's just all instrumentals. Real smooth, real mellow vibe. For those that don't know, Jay Diller was the producer of Slum Village. So think Slum Village, and you know how their music was so based on vibe and mood. That's kind of how this is. Anywho, again, we're going to talk today. Today's topic is the illusion of limitations. Again, today's topic is the illusion of limitations. So we're going to get to that momentarily. Before we get to that, I do want to take a few of your questions. And I also had a couple of things that I wanted to touch on, which is, for starters, I guess we'll go ahead and we'll let the elephant out the bag. And we'll talk about your man Jared from Subway, huh? What is going on with your man Jared from Subway? I guess the term $5 foot long takes on a whole new connotation, right? I don't even know if I'll be able to go into a Subway and order a $5 foot long, man. It's just, without thinking, yeah. So, for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure all of you know by now, your boy Jared, the Subway guy, he pled guilty on child molestation charges. Is that correct? Am I correct in that? As well as having child pornography on his computer. Is that correct? Yeah. Now, we talked about this a few weeks ago when the story first broke. I think on the Bill Cosby episode. Matter of fact, if you haven't watched the Bill Cosby episode, go check it out on YouTube on the Straight Talk page. But I think we touched on Jared a little bit. And I said at the time, when the feds come knocking, you're going to be in some trouble. Like, it's all bad. Like, the feds don't move until they got hard circumstantial evidence, like hard evidence. You know what I mean? So when the feds come knocking on your door, you might want to make some arrangements, because chances are you're going to be laying it down for a minute. So how it looks to me, and I could be wrong, but how it looks to me, just from an outsider looking in, is that the dude snitched on Jared trying to get his time cut. One of those types of things. They probably hit his business associate, his business partner. They probably hit him with, they put the full court press on him and he started singing like a canary. That's how it looks like it went down. I'm not sure, but that's how it looks. But, yeah, the feds don't mess around, man. So I was talking to my girl about this today, and she was shocked. We were talking, and she was telling me how she was shocked because she said, well, I knew about the porn, but I didn't know about the actual molestation. And I told her, well, you know, he had child pornography on his computer and he's got money. You know? I just made the assumption. Because really, the only thing that's really stopping us from living out our deepest, darkest fantasies is the lack of resources or the lack of access, right? So, like, for example, if I like to play basketball, I'm going to have a hoop in my driveway, right? If I like to smoke weed, I'll probably have a marijuana card, right? And, you know, apparently if I like little kids, you know, I'm just saying. And, you know, that subject in itself is very touchy because it's something, it's very taboo, rather. We don't really talk about it a lot. But it's something that has affected everybody in some way, shape, or form, because everybody knows somebody that was molested as a kid. But for some reason, that topic is so taboo. Like, we don't even discuss that. Let's see, apparently they found 159,634 texts, 47,623 images, 27,140 emails, and 3,394 videos. And there were 14 victims in total. Jesus Christ, man. Wow. Because, see, that's my hot bucket, you know, or my hot button topic. You know, everybody's got that one where they just, you know, they throw all logic and rationale out the window, just like you're a terrible person. You know, some people it's pets, some people it's the elderly. For me, it's the babies, man. It's the babies. Like, I just don't get down with that, man. That's just, you know, you got to be a certain type of individual that I just can't rock with. You know what I mean? And let me make sure I say this the right way. I can understand the attraction to a 16 or 17-year-old. I can understand. I'm not condoning it by any stretch of the imagination, but I can understand the attraction. But when you're talking about the babies, man, I don't get that, man. I do not get that. But don't worry about it, man. Jared gonna go to jail and they gonna shove a 12-inch meatball sub up his ass. They gonna use that grainy bread too. What's that? Is that the honey oat? Yeah, they gonna use that grainy bread to shove it up there too, man. So yeah, old Jared. Let me see what y'all got going on here. Shoot me a line, by the way. Let me know you're here. Did you hear about James Harrison taking his kids' participation trophies away from them? I did, and I applaud that brother for doing that. James Harrison, linebacker, I think he did play for the Steelers. I don't know if he's still playing. But his kids were playing football this weekend, and they didn't win the championship. But they gave him a trophy for participation, and he went on he put this long epitaph on Facebook talking about it and saying that he took the trophies away because he wants his kids to understand that everything in life is earned, which I applaud that brother for that, man. I really do. I applaud him for that. Let me see what else that I want to talk about. Oh, what did y'all think about Compton? Did y'all get a chance to go see the movie Compton this weekend? Water, by the way. What did y'all think about Compton? I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fantastic film, and I'm very proud of those brothers. A Rose says, excellent movie. I couldn't agree more. If you haven't seen it, go see it. I kind of lightweight want to go see it again. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really proud of those brothers, man. It was really good. But I thought it was funny. I don't know if y'all saw this, but on CNN, they did a report, and the headline was that they were surprised that there was no violence that happened at the theaters, because you know how they had extra security at the theaters. So they were surprised that there was no violence. And y'all probably let that one get right by you. Right? Some of y'all might have even been out there talking about, man, that's good. You know what I mean? You get it, though? And people want to talk to me about how CNN is a friend. I shit you not, though, man. I saw the headline. They said they were pleasantly surprised that no violence broke out at the movie theaters this weekend. It's like, come on, man. And again, a lot of y'all was probably co-signing that mess. Like, oh, that's good. That's the fuckery, though. That's the fuckery. What else did I want to touch on tonight before we get into the topic? Oh, there was a story that came out. Oh, let me talk about these nuts before I forget, man. Yeah, that I finally found a candidate that might make me go out and vote again. Yeah. There's a little 15-year-old kid in Iowa that was able to, with the computers, you know how smart kids are with those computers. And he actually got these nuts on the presidential primary ballot in North Carolina. And these nuts got 9% of the vote. Now, for starters, I got to say that I think I can say this with the utmost certainty, that it doesn't matter how old I get, a D's nuts joke is always going to be funny. A D's nuts joke is always going to be humorous. And quite frankly, be it the presidential election, be it the primary, be it the governorship, short of a family member of mine running, if I went into the voting booth rather, and I saw these nuts as a candidate, I might have to vote for these nuts, man. Just flat out, I might have to vote for these nuts. Just off the strength, right? And apparently I'm not alone, because it did get 9% of the vote. That's great, man. Sometimes I love y'all. Sometimes y'all are amazing, and I just appreciate the hell out of y'all, man. So yeah, vote for these nuts, y'all. Vote for these nuts. That's a good one. Hey man, who gonna be the next president? Oh, D. You know the rest. Let me see what y'all say. What do you think about Dee Barnes being upset that she wasn't in the movie? Why would she be? Why would she be? Why would you want to put that in your autobiography? For those that don't know, Dee Barnes is the lady that Dr. Dre beat up back in the day. And I've seen them coming out the woodwork. They're just trying to get a check while the name is buzzing. I'm not saying that wasn't terrible what happened, and that's real unfortunate and it's fucked up, right? It shouldn't have happened. But she's just trying to get a check at this point, because, this is the #1 movie in America. I think that movie grossed, like 60 million at the box office. I saw her come out, and then I saw a little interview that Michelle did as well, because she alleged abuse as well. But Michelle, she was banging Dre and Suge simultaneously, and it's been highly inferred that she was banging the homie Pac as well. So, take that as you may. But again, man, nobody is team domestic violence. But let's keep it 100, man. Y'all should be able to see this game from a mile away. #1 movie in the country. They trying to figure out how to get a check. They try to figure out how to get a check, man. What? There's footage of Suge Knight on Jimmy Kimmel talking about injecting people with AIDS to kill them slowly. Did you hear about that? Wow. But that's Suge, man. Suge playing his character, man. Suge was running his gimmick on Jimmy Kimmel. His gimmick is big, scary black guy. So he was playing his gimmick. Because think about it, if he was really the man like that, he wouldn't be sitting in jail right now. Right? Yeah, so, interesting, but, let me see, what else do we have here? But yeah, it was a really good film. I really enjoyed it. It was well put together. Everybody played their parts well. Again, if you haven't gone to see the movie Compton, I recommend that you go check it out, man. It's a good, you get your $10 worth. Now, I do have to say something, though, before I move on, because I'm for y'all that don't know, I'm located out in Arizona currently. We'll say momentarily, God willing. And I went to a theater out in Tempe. That's where the college is at. And I got to be honest, man, I was very uncomfortable with the amount of white people that were in the theater. Like, it was very overwhelming, Like I almost felt as if we were dots of ink on a white piece of paper. And you know, white people are always on time, so we got there at 7:30. So by the time we got there, the only seats that were left, we were literally in the second row of the theater. So you know, when you go down low, you're looking up at the screen, and that was our Straight Outta Compton experience. And the screen was so big, I had to look at a piece of the screen. Like I couldn't stare at the screen in totality. It was just too massive, and my eyes would have exploded. You know, doing that for 2.5 hours, my eyes would have eventually exploded. So I had to find a point, almost like I was meditating. Like I had to find my center. You know what I mean? And just watch the movie like that, which is another reason why I kind of want to go check it out again. But yeah, man, I mean, it was overwhelming. The number of white people, like it just made me very uncomfortable. I don't know what that says about me or what, or the material or what. I just found it quite uncomfortable. And there was a scene in the movie, I'm not going to really give too much away, but there was a scene in the movie where they showed the Rodney King beating. And there was a group of young white ladies behind us, or young white girls, like they were young women. And they were showing the Rodney King beating, and you could hear one of them audibly gasp. He's like, and you know me, I just thought that was hilarious in itself. If you're just tuning in, greetings and citations. Get your ass here on time next time. But this is gonna be a very powerful show. I'm very glad that you tuned in. Don't go anywhere, even if you get cut off by a commercial. Come right back. This is gonna be a very powerful show. I want this show to be transformative, not for both of us, for all of us. We're gonna talk about the illusion of limitations. I'm just running through a couple of housekeeping notes right now. We're talking about the movie Compton that came out this weekend. Was the #1 movie in America, and just kind of giving our thoughts about that film. Again, if you haven't gone to see it, I highly recommend that you check it out. It's it was well done. It's a real good movie. And of course, they took a few liberties here and there, because all movies do that. And you know, certain things you have to tell it in a certain way, just because movies have to have a certain structure to flow right. You know what I mean, and to make sense. But yeah, overall, it's a really good film, man, and I'm proud of everybody that was involved with it. And, you know, fuck you, CNN, talking about you were surprised that there was no violence that broke out. Like, come on, man. Anyway, we touched on Jared from Subway as well. We talked about how now $5 footlongs have a whole new meaning. He pled guilty on child pornography as well as molestation charges. So he's going to be laying it down shortly. And he'll probably be laying it down with Big Sam and Pookie and them, because they don't really play that stuff either. What else? We talked about These Nuts, presidential candidate These Nuts, man. That was hilarious. Before I get to the topic, one more thing I wanted to touch on. I read it. There was an article that came out today, or it might have been yesterday. I don't remember. But they were talking about how the NYPD used undercovers to infiltrate the Black Lives Matter. I don't know if it's a movement or whatever you want to call it. We'll call it a movement just for the sake of kind of grouping, so we can move on. But they infiltrated the Black Lives Matter movement. Which, if you know anything about your American history, that should not surprise you at all. And if that does surprise you, look up COINTELPRO. Look that up. Look up COINTELPRO if that surprises you. They've always had moles and spies and informants within black organizations. You're just not used to it anymore because we don't have many black organizations worth infiltrating. Like, name me one black organization that has any kind of clout or that's gotten anything done. You know what I mean? I'll wait. Exactly. So you're not used to that anymore. But yeah, man. They know what they're doing. See, all this is because momentum is being built right now. So all of this is a ploy to dissipate the energy. You know what I mean? Trying to quell the fires, thinking that eventually everybody's just going to calm down and everything will go back to normal. That's game, man. So I'm not surprised by that. The only irony of it is that it would probably just be easier to stop shooting people. That'd probably be easier to just stop shooting unarmed people, but the hell do I know, right? I don't know how these things work, right? So yeah, we also touched on James Harrison, and I say kudos to that brother. Kudos to that brother indeed. So without further delay, man, let's go ahead. I don't want to keep y'all too long today because I need to get something to eat. So let's get into the topic, man. Let's get into why we're here. Okay. Now, this particular topic came about because of a book that I just ordered. It's called The Holographic Universe by a guy named Michael Tabbitt. And if you're interested, I suggest you go check it out. Like, we found it on the internet for $4, man. So check it out. Y'all need to start reading again anyway, man. We rely way too much on one or two mediums of entertainment. Like, we just have way too much junk food in our diet. I mean that metaphorically as well as, I guess you could take it literal as well. And listen, man, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with junk food. It's cool every now and again. Like, hell, I'm probably going to have some In-N-Out burger tonight. You know, every now and again you get a craving for some Cool Ranch Doritos. But you can't build a diet, a sustainable diet, off of junk food alone. You know, and that's what we tend to do with our entertainment. So you got to think about it just like your body, just like your mind, you know. So we got to start to fall back on some of the junk food that we consume, right? But that's how this topic came across, man. And I don't know, I just been kind of meditating on it and been thinking about it. And the name just kind of came to me. Because, see, before I start, let me say this. I'm trying to give you your liberation papers today, all right? Like, this is real spit. Now, some of you all are going to listen to what I say, and you're just going to write it off as pseudo-psycho self-help babble. You know what I mean? Just whatever, right? Some of y'all going to write it off as that. Some of y'all are going to listen to what I have to say, and you're going to say, oh, I know that. And then once you do that, you automatically tune me out right there. But all that I ask of you is that you listen to me with an open mind, and more importantly, with an open heart. Because I want you to feel me. I want you to really feel me. Because if you can make this part of your fabric, part of your being, this is going to be very powerful information. This is going to be extremely powerful information. So I do ask, before we go on this journey, on this topic this evening, I do ask that you give me those two things. You give me an open mind and an open heart. Also, feel free to add your comments, questions, and concerns as well, because I really want you to get this. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm low-key nervous because I really want to get this message across to you. So at any point in time, there's a concept or something that I bring up that's unclear, or that you don't quite understand, or that you might take it one way and I mean it another way, by all means, please ask. Please ask. What's up, Mar? I appreciate that, brother. Please ask. So, the illusion of limitations. Because, see, we as humans, we have a tendency, we don't have a tendency, it's actually a problem, is that we constantly place limitations. We place limitations on ourselves. We place limitations upon others. And most importantly, and probably most damaging, we tend to place limitations on our children as well. See, we tend to place a lot of limitations on our children as well. And the reason for that is that sometimes a child might say something and we can't fathom it based upon our construction of reality. So then now we're entering, and I understand how hard it is. Like you know, having children, I understand that responsibility. Like you are in charge of raising the human manifestation of the universal God. So I understand the pressure that comes with that. So I'm not knocking parents. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just talking. This is straight talk. We talking to family, and we got to keep it straight with no chaser, right? So I understand the pressure that comes involved in that. So I'm not judging anybody's parenting style. None of that. That's not where I'm coming from. This is coming from a place of love. But see, based upon the limitations that we have already placed and shackled ourselves in, we place those same limitations on our children. And I can't tell you how detrimental that is. Because A, you don't know what the universal God has in store for that vessel. And B, you can't place your limitations on somebody else. So I don't care if your child tells you he or she wants to be a dinosaur. You embrace that and you encourage that, because you don't know what's going to come of that, right? Don't start teach your children the words can't. You understand? But see, again, we place limitations on ourselves. And what I'm about to say, if you can understand what I'm about to say, I'm about to let loose the shackles. I am about to free you as I have been freed. Let me tell you something. Your reality is your creation. You have created your reality through the manifestation of your thoughts and what you think. And in turn, you draw that energy and you draw those situations to you like a magnet. And then once that becomes your reality, the brain then fills in the gaps. Does that make sense? After that, the brain now fills in the gaps. But you created your reality, whether it be it good or bad. Your life and the reality that you currently find yourself in is your very own creation. Because again, it had manifested itself through your thoughts, because we are what we think. So a man thinketh as he does. Does that make sense? And again, this concept isn't revolutionary. We pretty much learn everything we need to know to be a functioning human by the time we're 5 or 6 years old. It just happens that as we get older and we gain more freedoms, freedom isn't always a great thing when you're not ready for it, because that leads to bad choices. And sometimes through those choices, they lead to consequences. And those consequences then become baggage, either physically or emotionally. And then subsequently we use that baggage, either physically or emotionally, as shackles. And it weighs us down. Because you know how they say misery loves company? Because sometimes it's comforting to stay in that place. Because see, what I'm telling you is very dangerous, but it's also very empowering. But it can be very dangerous, because a lot of us has gotten so comfortable with living life on autopilot. And that's how we're taught. That's how we're trained. That's how we're bred. That's how we're raised. We're raised to believe that we ultimately have no say in what we do. And all we are really are pawns in this spiritual warfare between God and the devil. I'm not saying the devil doesn't exist. Of course, I believe, I believe in God. So see, we're giving the illusion of choice. See, because you get to choose whatever religion you see fit. You get to choose Democrat or Republican, right? So we're given the illusion of choice. But it's ultimately that illusion of choice that is bogging you down, that is bogging us down. And the limitations that we place on ourselves, they manifest themselves to create our reality. So if you're happy and you're fulfilled in your life, congratulations. If you are not, that is on us. But see, the great thing in that is that if we created that fucked up reality, we can also recreate it. Now, let me give you an example to try to break down what I'm saying a little further for you. Now, again, I'm not saying this to denigrate single moms, not at all. That's not where I'm going. I'm just using an example that's very palatable and that we can all relate to in order to get to my larger point, okay? So we've all know that woman that, she's, the single mom, and she's constantly telling her son, well, you ain't shit just like your daddy, right? You ain't shit just like your daddy. Like, we all know that woman, right? So then eventually the kid grows up and he ends up going to jail or getting caught out there or whatever the case may be. Now, see, in that woman's mind, although she loves her child, she loves her child. I'm not taking that away. But she placed her limitations on that child. And then she spoke death upon that child. Because, see, words are powerful. See, words are spells. We don't understand that. Because we're not taught the power of words. Words are spells. So now she's manifesting that reality. Because that's what she's putting out there in the universe. But see, this is the trippy part of us as humans. This is when we overthink shit. This is the trippy part. So when that reality comes to fruition, because that is the reality, her reality, because that's the reality she constructed, she's going to say that that just verifies what she already thought. She's not going to say that I manifested that because I spoke death onto that child. She's going to say, just like I thought. That's exactly what I thought was going to happen. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Because, see, words are powerful, see? And, see, the Europeans, they knew that. They used to go down to Africa, to Egypt and to Ethiopia, and they used to study under the African shamans, the rich noblemen and the African shamans and the medicine men and this and that. They actually talk about that in this book called The Alchemist. If you haven't read that, check that out, too. That's a really inspirational book also. Normally I don't read fiction, but I made an exception for that, and I'm glad I did. And it's a quick read, man. Some of y'all smart melon farmers can finish it in a day or two. It's a real quick read. But they talk about that in The Alchemist. There was this guy, this character in the book. The main character, his goal was go to Egypt because he just kept saying that they kept saying that's where his treasure was going to be. And on his way, he met this Englishman. And he's described as an Englishman. I think they even describe him as blonde hair and blue eyes. And he was going to meet the alchemist. But see, you had to be worthy to meet the alchemist because they couldn't just give that information to everybody because it was too powerful. And see, the European male, they took that information and then they created the secret societies with it. The Masons, the Shriners, all that shit. They took the information that they learned from the Africans and then they used that to create the secret societies. And then to keep us in line, they gave us this bastardized form of religion. They didn't give us spirituality. They gave us religion. And if you adhere to any religious edict or text, they all basically say the exact same thing, but it creates division. Because, see, you have a different belief than I do. So my reality is that you're wrong in your belief systems. So subconsciously, I'm already judging you and I'm looking down upon you. Because your belief system is primitive compared to mine. Does that make sense? So they didn't give us this, they didn't leave us with these tools and how powerful of a tool that this is, your mind. Because think about it, everybody's always looking for the out. Everybody's always looking for the scapegoat. The black man talking about the white man got his foot on his neck. The white man talking about the black man and the Latin man taking all the jobs. Men are resentful of women because they can't get the ones they want. Women are resentful of men because the ones they choose ain't shit. And in the meantime, We're speaking all this death and this degradation into our bodies and into ourselves. And as a result, that's what comes back to us, because that is our reality. Because that is what we think about the most. So that's what comes back to us. See, that's how the brain fills in the parts. So now it justifies your belief and your pattern of behavior. It justifies it. So now that is your reality. Does that make sense? Mars absolutely right. Religion is the biggest prison of seekers of wisdom. Yeah. But see, they sell us hope. And see, hope is very dangerous. Not just religions. Politicians sell us hope all the time as well. Advertisers. There's whole industries based on selling us hope. It's called advertising. And hope is very dangerous because hope allows you to take your hands off the wheel. Now, don't get me wrong. God's will be done. I get that. Everything is part of God's plan. That's not what I'm saying. But we'll sit back and say, I'm going to pray on something and then never act on it. Now, there are certain times and certain situations where the best move is to sit back, meditate, be still, and wait for God to talk to you and tell you how to move. But for the most part, prayer without action is just words. It's just words. And see, religion is very regimented, just like everything else in our lives is very regimented. So then you just do it, and it is very ritualistic. It's very ritualistic. And as a result, you turn off your brain. And you turn off that power that you are able to tap into to manifest your reality. Now, that's not to say that in life, rain's not going to fall. But if we change our perception about problems when they come, perhaps we'll be more apt to find solutions. Right? Everybody's always blaming somebody else or some other force for their shortcomings. But we bring it upon ourselves. We bring it upon ourselves. And then when somebody comes at you based upon the limitations that we've placed on ourselves, when somebody comes at you with an idea, it may sound outlandish to you because you're in your reality that you've constructed for yourself. You can't fathom such a thing. And I'm going to give a personal example for that, because I tell everybody, hey man, my end game is to make blacks in this country economically self-sufficient, because nothing is going to change until that is the case. And when I say that to people, you think I had 6 heads while I was saying it. And since you can't fathom that in your reality, it's easy to either write somebody off, or you try to rationalize why they think the way they think, when you can't even think for you, but you're going to think for somebody else, right? All right? And then sometimes I have people, and sometimes I think people purposely misinterpret what it is that I'm saying when I say that. So what do you mean? We don't spend money with black people, or this and that? No. Only black people can support our business? No. Go to the black neighborhood right now, man. You got the Asian brothers and sisters and the Arab brothers and sisters making all the money. Right? This is a global economy. Again, you're looking at what I'm saying through your own prism of limitations. Because see, the great thing is that this thing right here is the ultimate equalizer. But again, when somebody comes to you with an idea, you look at it through the prism of your reality. And if in your reality that does not compute, you can't fathom it. And then you'll just write them off as crazy or whatever. Or you'll find a way to tell that person why it won't work. Am I lying? We don't do this? Mars says, I look at prayer as self-hypnosis. I can dig that. I can dig that. Because that is your quiet, reflective time with you and God, the universal God. So I can get that. I can get on board with that. But yeah, our reality is a social construct that we created for ourselves, man. So in essence, we put ourselves in a box. We define ourselves now. And I'm just letting you know, man, it doesn't have to be like that. Let's free ourselves right now. Now it takes work, because again, we have to retrain the way we think. Because your brain works like anything else, man. Once you think a certain way for so long, the neurotransmitters, they're wired a certain way. So then you look in everything through that prism of the reality that you have constructed for yourself. So changing the way we think also changes our brain patterns as well. And that does take time. But one suggestion, one thing that we can do is to replace old habits with new habits. Because see, we have to discard old habits. But in order to discard old habits, I find personally that it's a lot easier to replace it with a new habit. This is the same reason that your junkie cousin is now Jesus free. You dig? Because you had to replace that with something else. You know what I mean? And clearly they have an addictive personality. So whatever they do, they're going to go full tilt, right? But do you understand what I'm saying? I'm just saying that, using that as an analogy. One thing I do is I self-affirm myself every day. I have these 3 mantras that I tell myself every day. I tell myself 3 times a day. So in other words, 3 times a day, I say these 3 things 3 times. I tell myself I am an entrepreneur, I'm loved, and I will overcome all obstacles. I am an entrepreneur, I'm loved, and I will overcome all obstacles. Because if you say it, you think it, and if you think it, you believe it. And then once you believe it, is what I'm telling you, I want you to feel what I'm saying. Because once that becomes part of your core belief system, now you are able to go out and construct the reality that you want for yourself. Not to say we're not going to have to deal with white supremacy. Not to say we're not going to have to deal with sexism. Not to say that everything's going to be rainbows and sunshine. Quite frankly, you know that's a crock of shit just by living, right? You know that however old you are, you have learned that, right? And if anybody's trying to sell you that, you need to question why you're buying it. That's real spit. So again, what I'm saying is very empowering. But we're so used to taking our hands off the wheel and not being responsible for our own lives that maybe some of you can't even fathom what it is that I'm saying right now. A lot of y'all can't even fathom what I'm saying right now, perhaps because of that. But again, remember, this is 2:15, man. We're supposed to be doing better, and we're doing a hell of a lot worse, man. So we really don't have time to play around. Quite frankly, I don't have time to play around with y'all, man. Like, we got to do better. And I'm trying to free you. You understand? I ain't giving you responsibility of your life, of your being, of your existence. I'm trying to take the mental shackles off of you, right? So to speak. Because think about it. You know how powerful words are. Think about the power of your brain. Think about this. This is something that everybody has done, okay? Think about the power of your brain. You've been in the shower, or you've been walking down the street, or having a meal or something like that, and a particular song popped in your head. And you might have sang that song to yourself for a couple of days. And then what happens a few days after that? You end up hearing that song, don't you? Tell me I'm lying. Tell me that's never happened to you. That shows you the power that you have. But see, the enemy tricks you into thinking that you're powerless, because if they can keep you believing that you're powerless, that's how they can control you. That's how they can control you, and that's how they have been controlling us. So I'm telling you, the elite, the powers that be, they know what I'm telling you. They know this information, but they keep it from us for this very reason, because it's empowering. That's right. If you want to dance like you never danced before, go for it. I don't even know if y'all can hear that. I just tried to put a little mood music in the background. But yeah, man, let me say it again. The illusion of limitations. So then we put limitations on ourselves. And then we also put limitations on others. Especially our children, man. Because I hear everybody going around talking about, oh, the youth is lost and the youth failed and this and that. No. The youth didn't fail. We failed the youth. Because who'd they learn from? We failed the youth. Because who'd they learn from? See, none of us want to take responsibility, man, and it's very easy. The world is designed, and it's very easy for us not to take responsibility because there's always somebody to blame. There's always white supremacy. There's always sexism. There's always men should be like this or women are like that. There's always something. Whoa, I didn't get a proper education. You think Jesus had an education? You think the Christ had an education? As a matter of fact, the most intelligent person I've ever had the pleasure of meeting had a 6th grade education. So, you know, I would do it if I had the money. Instead of the way you should be thinking is, okay, how am I going to get to this money? There was this book that came out in the 30s. It was by this guy named Napoleon Hill. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember the name of the book. I think it was like I can't remember. Oh, The Biggest Secret. I think that's what it's called, The Biggest Secret. Look it up if you've never heard of it. And basically this guy went around and he shadowed Henry Ford for a while and some other people. And he basically said that the biggest secret to happiness and fulfillment in life is going after the things you want with a burning desire. So like that law of attraction shit, you remember when that was a fad back in the early aughts? Like there was something to that. But again, it was kind of a bastardized version of it. But no, there was actually some good books on that too. But like the ones that got popular, like The Secret and all of that. You know what I mean? They were that bastardized versions of the truth. But look up some of Deepak Chopra's work. Read some of his stuff. Yeah. You created your reality. And then the sick thing is that we also create our limitations. So we create a box in which we put ourselves in. You know what I mean? And it's a self-imposed box. And it's very hard to break out of that box because you created it based upon the limitations that you put on yourself. Or based upon the limitations that somebody else put on you. And again, I'm not dogging parents, man. That's not what this is about at all. But see, the thing is, every generation gets a little wiser. And when you know better, you got to do better. Right? Because there's certain things that we do that are just custom, that become custom, that back in the day might have been survival mechanisms, but they were passed on generation after generation, and it just became what we did. You dig? But that doesn't necessarily make it right. Like, you're not supposed to eat the foot of a pig. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? You're not supposed to eat pig guts. What's wrong with you? But back in the day, that saved somebody's life. Right? So yeah, again, man, I hope that I'm explaining this right, man, because I really want y'all to grasp this concept. And I want you to participate. Please, write up your own mantras. And bring them back here next week if you want. We can discuss them. We can talk about what you came up with. Because, see, we have to begin to phase out some of our old bad habits. But in order to replace those bad habits, we also have to develop new habits on top of that. Because we also have to rewire the way that our brain works. And anytime, and again, I say my mantras 3 times a day, or anytime I feel that it's necessary. Like if I feel that chump coming on, you know what I mean? Or I feel that fear coming in, I use that as reformation to reground myself, and then we start back. And don't be afraid to fall, man. We're only human. Just get back, dust yourself off, and get back onto that train of thought, man, and keep plugging away and keep pushing and keep pushing. See, because we're ruled by fear. Believe this or you're going to hell. Don't vote for this guy or he's going to take all your money. Don't let these immigrants come over here because they're going to take all your jobs. ISIS is going to come over here and bomb all of us. Black people are going to kill you and rape your women. You did? Does that make sense? And that's why I say we got to get back to reading as well, because reading strengthens your mind. See, you're able to just kind of zone out and watch the TV, but reading strengthens that mind, and the mind is a muscle. The mind is a muscle. It has to be stimulated just like any other muscle, or it will atrophy. Or it will atrophy. So quit placing these imaginary limitations on yourselves. And once you do that, you'll stop doing it onto others as well. You know, because the narrative for so long was go to school, get good grades, get an education, and then go get a good job. Well, that's not working because people are doing that and they can't find jobs and people are still getting killed by the cops. But again, man, the youth didn't fail. We failed the youth. When the youth are out here getting their heads blown off by these cops and the best we can do is tell them to pray on it, that's a fail, man. But that's all right. Because just as we failed, we also have the power to succeed. But we have to stop bringing death into our households. We have to stop speaking death into each other. And we have to understand the power that we possess as the human manifestation of the universal God. Understand your power. And quit using God, while I'm on it, quit using God as your own personal pit bull and genie. Y'all niggas be using God like he's the damn Aladdin's lamp. Oh, dear Lord, please give me this new car in the name of Jesus. Hallelujah. Come on, man. God don't work like that, man. The real God, you don't play with the real God like that, man. Let's quit doing that. But again, man, understand that we created the reality. If you find yourself, if you feel like you're trapped, if you feel unfulfilled, if you feel like somebody else is holding you back or stopping you from reaching your potential, well, they're not. They're not. And sure, there's going to be obstacles and opposition. Such is life. Now, one thing I will give our white brothers and sisters credit for, not the people that claim they're white. I'm talking about the actual white folks that run the shit. I'm talking about them. One thing that you know, because you can learn from your enemy, is the way that they go after things with such passion and burning desire and ruthless aggression. Will not take no for an answer. And if you tell them they can't do something, they will do it just to spite you. Right? You think the colonists sat around and said, man, these British won't let us do nothing, man. They won't let us do nothing. They always got their foot on our necks. No. They said, man, fuck this shit. The American Revolution was, in essence, the colonies saying, man, fuck this shit. But see, you think you're free, but how come when November 25th rolls around, if you're not eating turkey, you don't feel right? Something ain't right, you know? They got us so trained that come November 26th, we got to spend all our money. And then anybody got no money until income tax. Right? I'm just spitballing here now, but imagine if we decided to boycott and just didn't spend money for Thanksgiving or Christmas. That's power. You understand the power that you have? So don't put limitations on yourself, most importantly. And don't put limitations on others. And don't allow others to put limitations on you. Don't allow others to put you in their box based on their reality. Don't do that. Stop doing that to yourself. And stop doing that to everybody else as well. Anywho, I think we're going to have to retouch this topic, man, because I really want to bang this home. We might have to run it back and do a part 2 next week, man. Because I really want y'all to understand this concept, and I really want it to become part of your being, part of your fiber. But for the time being, I'm gonna ask that y'all go home and you got a week, man. Write you up a few mantras. Write you up your own mantras, and then say them to yourselves. Get in the habit of doing that. Say them to yourselves. Like I said, I do mine 3 times a day, 3 times, because of the power of 3s. So 3 times when I get up in the morning, somewhere during the middle of the day, and then again at night before I lay my head down. Like, we feel so hopeless, man, we can't even do nothing in our dreams. You ever notice that? Like, the vampire be chasing you. Turn around and smack the shit out of him. That's how powerless we feel, right? Yeah, understand the power that you have in yourself, man. And do not allow others to place limitations on you based upon their skewed versions of their reality. And don't do that to anybody else either. I'm telling you, if your child tells you, that nigga says he wants to grow up to be a transformer, you nurture that. Because you never know what will manifest itself out of that, man. That kid might, that kid might be the one to start the revolution. You know? That kid might figure out how to get us to find us another Earth or something. You dig? Unlock your mind and untap your mind's unlimited potential. And do it now, because the older you get, the harder it is to change. We get more and more set in our ways. So do it now. Don't put this off. Do it now. Begin the process now. Unlock your mind. Unlock the shackles. Truly be free. By the power vested in me from the universal God, brothers and sisters, I release thee. Okay, I did that for dramatic effect. But seriously, I release you. Release you from your burdens, from your fears, from your worries. Now again, we have to unpack our baggage, because if you don't deal with your baggage, it is going to manifest itself in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But free yourself. Free yourself. We're going to come back to this topic, man. I really enjoyed this, and there's some other things we're going to touch on. I might not be able to do part 2 next week, depending on what happens, but we're going to do a part 2 to this topic. We're going to come back to this, okay? I might have to do a series on this. All right? But I'm going to let y'all go for the evening, man, because I know everybody got things to do, man. If you're new to the broadcast, we do this every Wednesday night, 9:30 Eastern, right here on Ustream. Also, make sure you follow the page, become a subscriber to the show. And if at any time you ever miss any of the shows, you can always go to the YouTube page, Straight Talk IGC. You can go to the Straight Talk IGC YouTube page. We're also in works of getting a website. I'll put it to you like this. God willing, probably by the beginning stages of October, we'll actually have the Straight Talk or the IGC webpage up as well. So we're moving, man. We're moving. We're moving. Now, before I close, man, again, I just want to say this one more time, man. Hopefully, God willing, I'll see you guys back here next week. Same plat time, same plat channel. But before I get out of here, man, again, man, free your mind. Release. Why are you going to put limitations on yourself? You are the human manifestation of God. There's nothing limiting about that. As a matter of fact, that's empowering. So learn how to tap into your power. Tap into your potential. Shape the reality that you want, not the one that somebody else has given you. You trying to fit yourself into a reality that you had no part in writing, and yet you wonder why you're unhappy. From this day forward, let's start anew. Free ourselves. Take a deep breath and say to yourself, I am free. Shalom.